What if the team behind your favourite platformer weren't thinking like game designers at all? What if they were thinking like Disney animators? It's 1990, you're playing a platformer, you stop moving and your character just stands there waiting. A static sprite in a static world. For most games at the time, that was normal. But then there's Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse. Mickey is standing still, but he's not stiff or motionless. He sways and smiles at nothing in particular, like he's actually there and enjoying himself. What game director Emiko Yamamoto's team did with Mickey's animation, the craft, the obsession, the sheer ambition of it was extraordinary for a platformer in 1990. And nobody ever really explained why until now. Let's get into it. So where does that come from? Why does Castle of Illusion feel so different from the platformers around it? Why does Mickey feel less like a sprite and more like a character? This was Emiko Yamamoto's first game. It came out in November 1990 and it drew immediate praise, with critics calling it a close rival to the Mario series. But the more interesting thing is why. By Yamamoto's own account, she didn't worry about whether her ideas were too difficult or too unconventional. She followed what interested her. And what interested her wasn't other games, it was Disney films. So what does studying Disney films actually look like when it shows up in a game? Start with the jump. Yamamoto's team watched Disney animation frame by frame. They weren't just looking at how characters moved, they were looking at how movement carried feeling. Disney had spent decades refining that language, and Yamamoto wanted some of it in the game. So they added more frames of animation to Mickey's jump, more than you'd expect in a typical platformer. Enough, as Yamamoto put it, to fully express the movement of his body through the air. And here's where it gets interesting. All those extra frames made Mickey's jump longer than it would be in a normal game. The arc was bigger, the hang time was greater. You can see that in motion right here. So the team adjusted the level design around it. The animation wasn't simply being squeezed into an existing game feel. The game itself had to make room for the animation. Platforms and distances had to work with the movement they wanted Mickey to have. And you can feel Disney's influence in every movement. This isn't just a sprite on the background. Mickey's a living character moving through the world. Every platform, every gap in this game exists where it does because of how Mickey needed to move. And that was just the start of it. If you're enjoying this kind of breakdown, then please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, as it helps more people find my channel. Thank you very much. But getting there wasn't straightforward. The Mega Drive's video memory wasn't built for this kind of animation density. The way it was being used at the time simply couldn't support everything Yamamoto's team wanted to put on screen. So they went back to the programmers, and between them they rebuilt the way the system handled memory entirely, not to make the game more faster or powerful in any conventional sense, but purely to make room for the animation they were aiming for. And then frame by frame, pixel by pixel, they adjusted character movement until it felt right. That level of commitment came from something Yamamoto's team had noticed while studying Disney's classic films. In Disney animation, the world never felt completely still. There was always something moving, always a sense of life beyond the action. Yamamoto wanted some of that in the game too. So the question wasn't just how do we make Mickey move well, it was how do we make the whole world feel alive. And the hardware as it stood wasn't ready for that. So they changed the way they used it, and that result is visible in every corner of the game. And you can see that instinct all through Castle of Illusion. even when the game is doing less than you might expect on paper. Look at the backgrounds. There's so much detail there, some of it moving. They don't feel interchangeable. Each level feels like its own place, a world of cake and confectionery that looks like it was dreamed up by a child with an unlimited imagination and a serious sweet tooth. What looks like a pink child's bedroom, except the miniature toys have come to life, and instead of trying to cuddle you, they're trying to kill you. Each level has its own logic, its own cast of inhabitants, its own particular brand of beautiful strangeness. Yamamoto later said that the team put enormous energy into those backgrounds, packing in as much detail as the memory would allow. And inside those rich spaces, a lot of the job of making the game feel alive falls on Mickey himself, which brings us back to that idle animation. Watch what happens when you just leave him standing there. Mickey stands still, but not stiff and motionless. He sways gently from side to side, hands behind his back, smiling to himself. Bring him too close to a ledge, and he windmills his arms, comically aware of the drop. He even has comic facial and body expressions, something genuinely rare for a game character in 1990. These details do more than serve pure function. They make Mickey feel genuinely real, like you're actually playing with Mickey Mouse, rather than just a simple sprite that looks like Mickey Mouse. And then there's this comparison. Sonic the Hedgehog's foot tap is one of the most recognizable idle animations in gaming, but Sonic arrived in 1991. Castle of Illusion arrived in 1990. Whether Mickey got there first or not, he was remarkably early, and that's not something most people know. But the game goes deeper than animation technique. Take a look at the enemies Mickey faces. Toy soldiers marching stiffly towards you, mushrooms and tree stumps that have decided to be aggressive about it. In the library, you can see little red letter A's bouncing around with apparent cheerfulness and absolutely lethal intent. And the bosses, nearly every single one of them, looks like something a child might want a cuddly toy from. And every single one of them wants you to die. Even the way you defeat all the enemies follows the same logic. Mickey doesn't just punch or slash, he jumps and he cutely lands on them with his behind, or lobs a small, colourful, round item at them, and the enemies turn into little stars and vanish. No blood, no violence, no drama. Nobody really dies in Castle of Illusion. They just disappear gently, as if the world itself is too polite to make a fuss about it. That wasn't just an aesthetic choice. The game was made under conditions that ruled out violence of any kind, but it fits so naturally you never know it wasn't a rule. That's Disney sensibility, a world with its own internal rules, where everything has personality, even the things that want you dead, especially the things that want you dead. And then there's Mizrabel, the queen villain who kidnaps Minnie out of jealousy for her beauty, an old woman who transforms into something far more powerful. Yamamoto later said she was inspired by the evil queen from Snow White. The motive, the vanity, the transformation. Watch the evil queen and the old witch that she becomes in the film, and then look at Mizrabel. The resemblance is not subtle. And once you see that influence clearly, the rest of the game starts to feel less like borrowed surface detail and more like a team thinking in Disney story logic. Yamamoto wasn't just making a game that looked like Disney, she was making a game that thought like Disney. The difference is everything. I first played Castle of Illusion at my cousin's house in 1990. I was just a young lad. I had no idea why it felt the way it did. I just knew that the colours and the detail looked unlike anything I'd seen in a game before, that the world felt strange and funny and beautiful all at once, and that Mickey moved like he was actually alive. That was enough. It took me 36 years to understand what I was looking at. What Yamamoto's team made was more than a good licensed platformer. They were drawing on Disney animation, Disney storytelling, and Disney feeling, then trying to build some of that in the hardware that wasn't really built for it. Because Mickey isn't just standing there like a simple game sprite, he's been brought to life. Anyway guys, let me know what you think about the original Castle of Illusion. Did you play it back in the day? And what do you think of it now? If you enjoyed this, then check out this video here on Donkey Kong Country, which in my opinion is one of the best platformers ever. Until we meet again, go forth and play.